From the bench to the bleachers, you are listening to the only podcast in Ontario that keeps you in the game.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's do this.
This episode of In the Game is brought to you by Western Survivor Beef Jerky. Get your jerky on at www.westernsurvivor.ca. My next guest on In the Game won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and is on the Food Network's Worst Cooks in America. I'm talking about Darian Barnes. Darian, welcome to In the Game, my friend. Sorry about that, man.
No, it's cool, man. How's it going?
Not bad. You?
Doing good.
Awesome. So Darian, kind of been fun trying to get you lined up for In the Game here. Who knew that it would be so difficult to have a Miami Dolphin or a former Miami Dolphin player on this show? I would think anybody in the organization would love to have their current or past players be a part of this show, given their record over the past few years. But it was actually the Food Network with their PR department that made things a little bit slower for you to get on here. So let's chat a little bit about what you're doing, man. I mean, we'll get to your football stuff later, but you are all set up to be on the Food Network, and my guess is you are going to display some of the finest cooking abilities and skills that you have for the nation and possibly even Canada. Let's chat a little bit about that. How did you get there? How did you end up doing that? Like, when did that come about with you?
So I've never watched the show prior to being on it, and my wife and kids watch it religiously. And I get a call from a casting director out of the blue late last year, like, hey, we want to talk to you about your interest in being on the show. And I'm like, what show? Food. And I'm like, what is this? And my kids in the background are screaming like, oh, they called him. He's going to be on. So it was a shock to me. And I had nothing to do with going on the show, basically. It was all them,
So I'm guessing, judging by the title of the show, it's America's Worst Cooks, right?
Worst Cooks in America.
Worst Cooks in America. Okay, so judging by the title, you weren't name dropped or applied for that show based on your cooking ability then. So am I right or am I wrong on that one? Are you a chef extraordinaire or?
No, I am a terrible cook. Well, no, not anymore. No, not anymore, but I wasn't a good cook. Playing college ball and playing in the NFL, I never, you really didn't have to cook for yourself. You had a training table, and then I got married, and my wife cooked. And it wasn't until recently, where she's in college and working, that I had to learn how to do it, and it was a dumpster fire, to say the least. So
yeah, and people that they gotta remember, I mean, just because you were a former pro athlete, it's not a thing of, the guy was a pro athlete and he was lazy, didn't want to do it, wanted people doing it all for him. When you were younger, just like me or my kids, your parents kind of cooked for you. But when you're into sports, you're on the go, you're on the road. You might even stop in for a McDonald's or something as you're a kid growing up on the way home. But the biggest thing is that once you got into college, it's like you said, the teams, like your rosters for football, the teams have their meals catered or prepared for them. Or if they're on the road, the diet is kind of given to the players of what they need for calorie wise. And then when you got, like you said, to the NFL, your wife's there. It's one of those things where you're on the road. It's either restaurants or catered meal for the team on the road, or when you're coming home, your wife's there, glad to see you. You've been away for a bit and dinner's there. It's not a thing of, he just didn't know how to cook or was lazy. It was just the lifestyle of an athlete that's what happens, is everything is so busy, your schedule, that, the meals were minimal part of it. They're a huge part of it, but they were prepared for you, right?
No, absolutely. You're very much, as a pro athlete, even as a college athlete, your life is on an itinerary. And you basically, you're told where to go, what to do, and it's just so that you can concentrate on playing football. So it was definitely a shock to me when it was like, oh, I gotta do this now. So it was, again, it was a big leap.
So let's talk about we'll talk about the show. How many episodes, I mean, are you set up to be guaranteed? I guess I would assume is there a guarantee or what?
Oh,
What's
so
that?
basically the way it's set up is you go through this like boot camp, and each week you compete with a dish. You have to replicate a dish from your chef each week, and if you do well enough, you move on. If you don't, you get cut. So it's very much, it reminded me a lot of football camp. Where you're in this high stakes environment. You got to learn a lot of information right away, and you got to perform, or you don't stay on the team. So I think it helped me in that respect in going through the show and trying to compete and perform. But it was a great experience. It was absolutely terrific experience. Terrific to be a part of.
So I saw a clip posted, and I think on Facebook you commented with people tagging you. When you were in the NFL, you play on both sides of were you offense and defense on some snaps?
I was a fullback. I played fullback, and I was on special teams.
Okay, because I was going to say, like, if you're on the defensive side of the ball, like, did you see that or did you do that? Because I saw a clip with you with the and freaking out, and I'm thinking, what was that? Right? Like, I could just imagine you lining up before a snap and just trying to, throw people off with something like that. I kind of went, whoa.
No, no, I think it was just an intense moment of cooking. I was down to the wire, probably trying to get something on the plate before time was up, and just kind of had to let off some steam.
I get it. We'll have to obviously wait to see the full thing, but it was one of those things where when you saw that, it's almost like Forged in Fire and all those other TV shows where guys are slamming stuff down and they show the little bit, but it was very funny and very intense. So I thought, man, I could just imagine him lining up in a football game and just all of a sudden snap and then doing that. And I'm like, defenses or offenses would be looking at you going like, what's going on? So anyway, so I would have to say, being the size that you are and being a former football player and athlete, you ate food, right? It's a huge part of your diet and calories and everything else. You must love food or certain foods. Like, I mean, it must be a combination where you've got a chance to be on this cooking show, but at the same time, through the experience of college or even pros, you probably were able to have, I mean, I know there's subs and everything else, but there's probably certain foods that you love or enjoy. Can you tell us what those are?
Before football and during football, I was a big steak guy. Loved eating it every day. A big steak and eggs guy. Loaded potato. So I was kind of that hearty meal. And since I don't play anymore, and I'm 40 and I'm trying to not eat myself to death, I lean more to fish and chicken now.
Cool. So yeah, 40 is like the new 10, because 70 is like the new 40, right?
I feel old. I don't know.
How is the body holding up? I mean, I know you. So you and I have a lot in common, other than the fact that you are a bigger dude and I'm not that size. I was only 5'9". I played semi-pro hockey. You played professional football. You are born on February 28th, correct?
29th.
29th. Okay, so it's listed as the 28th. I'm born on February 28th.
Okay.
And the only other two guys I know that are born on the 28th is a guy that played several seasons in the NHL named Ryan Vandenbush, and another guy that played in the NHL named Eric Lindros. So it seems to be anybody who's born on the 29th but listed as the 28th or has the 28th of February as their birthday is a pro athlete. I'm the only one that didn't get to the top or didn't get to the show.
There's still time. You still got time.
Yeah. So let's I guess, like I said, I think it's unique and it's awesome when I saw that you're doing good things. You're, like I said, you're you played an extreme sport, right? Like, and I say extreme because, like hockey, like boxing or mixed martial arts or contact sports, we're getting into concussions and CTE with players. And I have to say, you look good. Like you're smiling in the pictures, even in the conversation here. I'm sure you've had your moments, I would assume. I know I have. I've had several concussions. I've learned how to deal and handle with that. How have you been post-playing career since you retired, physically and mentally?
That's a great question. I think, again, well, it starts with, I think, your diet. You have moments, migraines and things like that, but I think I've done a lot of, I've done a lot of, again, diet, but I try to read a lot. I try to keep my mind sharp, and just try to stay aware of, like, how I'm feeling, aware of just my thought process and just my cognition, and you hope for the best, you prepare for the worst. And I think that's kind of where, if you're in a contact sport, it's kind of where we all are. You kind of have to, you gotta weigh it out, and hopefully you live a long, healthy life, and you're lucid during it.
Yeah, I mean, I had some dark moments probably up until about 5 years ago, leaving the game of hockey, several concussions, personal things going on with my life. I have an amazing wife that stuck with me. We've been together, like it's almost 16 years, married for, I think, 12 or 13. And it wasn't until, almost not her cry out to me, but it was, you need to really look at yourself in the mirror. There's something going on. You need to talk to somebody. And I quickly had gone out for some sessions, and I'm not embarrassed to talk about that. I think a lot of it was the weight of the world on the shoulder. It doesn't matter if you're a Tom Brady or a Wayne Gretzky, but if you played at an elite level, you went through a lot of pressures, even from a kid growing up to high school to college to minor pro or pro, and a lot of that stress on players weighs mentally. And the generation I grew up in might have been like you, where you take a lick or a hit, you keep your head up, you don't cry, you don't complain, you're seeing stars, you take a Tylenol or an Advil and you sit on the bench, and you were a gamer. And that was what the culture was. And I think, when I first talked to the counselor, I had emotional breakdown. Because I always felt like everybody expected me not to show weakness.
Yeah.
Do you agree? Like,
No, I do agree. What I think, when you leave any sport, especially a contact sport, and you've been doing it for, most of us from that culture, we were doing it since we were kids, and when you leave a sport, there's a void there. And I think the way we're used to, as athletes, the way we're used to dealing with stress, and the way we're used to dealing with problems, or not dealing with problems, or not dealing with stress, or just kind of compartmentalizing things, you kind of lose those intuitive, like self kind of help skills that being in a sport gives you. And I don't want to get all, philosophical or anything up about it, but I think a lot of what happens is the things that didn't bother you before cognitively, because you've kind of had that structure to kind of not deal with those things. When that sport goes and that void leaves, you don't get to utilize those skills in your home environment that maybe you would, or in a different work environment than you would playing. And I think we all, I think we all have had low moments. I've definitely had low moments, and I've definitely had to deal with issues. But I think a lot of it, for me, a lot of it has come down to, how do you want to live your life? And how do I want to make the right decisions that are going to propel my life forward and put me in a better position to take care of my family and take care of myself, ultimately? So there's like a a struggle with athletes, even during the game, leaving the game, to deal with those feelings that you really don't get to deal with in that environment, because it's so high stress. Because if you deal with them, you're afraid you might get cut, or you're afraid, you just it is a culture change. It's like just, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to take away from the real medical part of it and the real, structural long-term damage that contact sports can play. That's not, those issues are there, and I think they're unique to every person, but also we can relate at our age that we've had, like I've had concussions. I was a blocking fullback for most of my football career. And you learn to run into people. I was breaking wedges when they still had wedges in the NFL. So yeah, I've had those moments where I've lost halves and I've lost games, and those, for me to say like those things haven't affected me, it'd be silly to even try to pretend that that's not the issue. I just think for me, where I'm at in my life, it's easy not to be mindful of yourself. It's easy not to recognize when you're having issues, because, of anxiety and hell, the way the world is on fire now, like it's it can be tough not to take some self-introspection and go, hey, there are things that are wrong with me that I have to fix. And so I've stayed positive. I'm constantly doing things to keep my mind sharp. I'm constantly trying to learn new things. Just because I don't want, God forbid if it comes down to later in my life and I have issues, I want to be, whatever ailment I have, I want to be the best person I possibly can be.
Yeah.
So
and positivity plays a lot into that, right? And you said mindfulness. Like, it's funny, I just used that word probably 2 or 3 times in the last month alone, and I think that's what's helped me. Like I said, I have a hockey agency where we have pro players and stuff. Right now, because of the pandemic, it's kind of, things are down. But I thought, you know what, like I want to do something to help people out there, and I want to be able to talk to people over here like you, and bridge them together and talk about people's life and experiences. But I also want to, especially with the coronavirus and the riots and the racial tensions, and I want to spread positivity, and I want to be more mindful of myself, because I find that if I'm more mindful of my own space and I'm thinking more positive, the outlook in life for me is a little better. At the end of the day, I'm sleeping better. I'm feeling better. And that was tough when I went through those years of, I can't even relate to what it was. I didn't know what it was, but it was mood changes, aggression. It was stuff from hits, like I know very well. Or when I came into the real world, it's not like I couldn't handle it, because athletes are trained to be able to overcome adversity and push through anything. That's what makes them unique. But when you transferred into the real world, where, what do you mean I'm not supposed to do this or I'm not supposed to do that? That's all I've ever known. And the adjustment was difficult. But reaching out and talking to people like you, like even today, where you're like, here's my phone number, or even like yesterday we had a conversation with my old neighbor across the way who was a huge Bills fan. Stuff like that is like positivity, right? Like, just, oh man, like, Darian's an amazing guy. Yeah, sure thing, Frenchie. Like it's seeing people happy is making me feel better.
Yeah, I think the world could use a big dose of positivity right now. So again, it's not taking away from, I think, the real issues in the world that we're going to have to face head on as a people. Not just, I think what's happened in this year alone has shown us that while we think that we're getting farther apart, and while we think that we're on the precipice of this kind of collapse of humanity, we're also becoming closer together, because I think what's happening is showing what's going on right now is that we do have to be accountable for each other on a global scale, because if something happens in one place and a group of people get sick there, we have to be able to globally say, hey, let's figure out a way to save lives and put people in better positions to live and thrive. And if we don't start thinking about that, we're inundated with information every day and new technology. There's always something coming up, and it's supposed to make our lives easier. But I think in order to do that, we got to start kind of investing in information and technology that's going to make our lives easier on a global scale. We can feed everybody if we want to. We can give people water if we want to. If we just cut the BS and the consumerism and the partisan politics, the racism, these real issues, that if we just really take a global approach to these issues and stop looking at borders and countries and just looking at us being humans, these issues will go away. And we just have to, I think, in spite of all of the, pardon my language, piss, shit, and corruption that's happened in the last couple of years, I think we're starting to get it as a people, our younger generation especially. I think the people who are a little younger than us that are definitely more, vocal and definitely more activists. I think they're really getting it. It's hopeful, but again, I just, we got to stop the labels and the titles, and we got to really start thinking like as a people, like how do we make this world better? Like we're not trying to sound like soft.
Yeah.
I
agree. I agree 100% with you. Like my wife's the same way. We both agree. Again, whether it's African American, Caucasian, Hispanic, whether it's trans, gay, bi, like we don't care. And I don't mean we don't care like we don't care. Like we accept everybody. I just don't want everybody labeled, because when you label, then you're individualizing everybody, which is what you just said. We don't want to separate everybody. We want everybody to be inclusive and not have that person not feel more special than that person, or more included, and just include it. I'm not saying you're not important and you don't. I'm just saying let's be one, man.
And it's very. I think as humans, we get caught up in semantics and categories and things like that, because our way our mind kind of works in indexing things so we can kind of make sense of the world around us. I think we can be together as a people and you not lose your individual identity, and I think that's kind of what, on a grander kind of esoteric kind of, I guess, way of thinking, we're in a world where people feel like if they include other people, if they're if that means if I include other people into this community, into society, am I going to give up my sense of religion, my sense of faith, my sense of identity? And the answer is really like no. It's just we're people first. We're not a religion. We're not a political party. We're not we're not a label. We're people first, and we need to start making policies and programs that emphasize that.
See, I am guilty of the label thing. I'm going to try to lighten the mood here a bit. I think you have a beer in the background. It's okay to drink that beer and have a chat with me. I don't want that. What is it?
Is
that Doritos? Oh yeah, Doritos. I love that, man. Every Friday night, and we do have it up in Canada, but Doritos every Friday night. My son is 12 years old. He keeps time keeps for a hockey game for pickup to make money. And we stop in at a store called the Bulk Barn, which has, seeds, nuts, and all those type of things. And in there they have Doritos. I've never seen it before until in there. And then I think they had like a bitter cola flavor. They have lime flavor. I love that drink, man. It looked like a Corona sitting back there, right? But that is fine. You can drink it. You can drink it. You're gonna light.
I drink red wine. I don't really drink beer much anymore, and if I'm gonna drink, something a little stronger, that's kind of few and far between. But I walked past it. It was like one of those impulse buys. I walked past it in CVS and was like, you know what, I'm having one.
I believe I think they're even imported from Mexico. Like I think are they not a Mexican cola? Like it's amazing. I love the flavors.
Yeah, the tamarind, that's the one I like the most. It's that like weird fruit that grows in Mexico, tamarind.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw a post of them. They look like little limes, right? Yeah.
I love that flavor.
So I want to get into the labeling thing. I am guilty as hell as labeling people. Okay, and you know why I'm going to say that? Because you played for the Dolphins, you played for the Bills, you played for the Cowboys. Like, good God, man. I don't even know if you would have been on this show had you not have been a Buccaneer and won a Super Bowl with my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh, there it is, the championship ring. That is awesome, my man. So you want to tell me a little bit about that piece of jewelry there? I mean, okay, was that the first year you were in the league?
That's my rookie year.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's walk through that rookie year with Tampa Bay, the 02-03 season. I remember that season extremely well. Before we chat about it, I'll tell you a quick story. That was the year my daughter was born. She was born November 10th. 2002, which was the start of the season. I do remember it. You guys were 7-2. You had a bye week on a Sunday. I was getting ready to sit down, put the chair up, and watch a little ball. All of a sudden, we got to go to the hospital. And so we drive 40 minutes in a monsoon, torrential downpour. And I was in kind of the old, I mean, it was an amazing day. It was your daughter's born only once. But I was like, looking at the clock going, football's it's kickoff's getting here. Are we going to get back for kickoff, right? You guys had a bye week. That day I called my father. My father was in Las Vegas from Canada. He went to Vegas. He went there because my daughter was 6 weeks early being born. And I told him that he was a grandfather. He was in Vegas. And I told him to put a couple $100 down on John Gruden and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl. Cha-ching. So let's talk about that rookie season.
Oh man, it's almost like a whirlwind, now. I got there. I was with the Giants in training camp, so I got to Tampa the first week of the regular season, and I'm a rookie. Like I got to learn a new offense. I had to learn the Giants' offense. I got to learn a new offense, and John's offense is so so intricate. It was like that pure West Coast offense.
But you guys didn't have a really good offense before that season, if I was correct. Tony Dungy was in there, had an amazing defense, but I think when John Gruden or Chucky, that's why I came to I was like, Chucky, I love it. I mean, we'll talk about him later, but anyways, their offense was kind of struggling, and I think, that year coming in, like Pittman, I think Keenan McCardell, Mike Allslot, there was a few guys. Once everything came together, it was like pound the rock and chuck the ball, right?
Yeah, no, I think that offense really came together that year. Brad Johnson was the quarterback. We had really veteran offensive players that really kind of carried the load for us, I think, across the board. So it was exciting to be a part of. It was exciting to learn from those guys at the time, because I was just, I was a crazy rookie. So, but it was just being a part of that whole system and getting to watch guys like Derek Brooks and Simeon Rice and Rondé Barber play was like, it just was fantastic.
Yeah, that season was pretty unique. It was special. I want to say that it was really weird the way it was because, I think it was around 24, 25. You're a year younger, so it had to be 23, 24. I think you were that age. John Gruden just left Oakland and came to Tampa, and you guys end up meeting Oakland in the Super Bowl. So, I know you guys as players, it's one thing, and I'm sure Gruden was probably like, that was his, unfortunately, it should be about the players, but it was probably his stage of, man, do I want to get this one back or get this one against Oakland, right?
Yeah, no, I kind of think being around Coach Gruden, I think every game, I know that, obviously Oakland, it was something, more like special to him, but I think he's like that every game, just really intense and just really just intense. He's just an intense, intense guy, and I don't know. I don't know if it would have mattered who was on the other side of the field at that time. He wanted to win. Tampa, to win a Super Bowl for Tampa, and for a franchise that has a storied history that they do in terms of just not having as much success as they wanted to win it at that time. I think it was extraordinary. I can't explain it to you. I was a rookie. It wasn't the guys who had guys like Allstott had grew up he was a buck. So, and he went through all those. He struggled through all those years where they were trying to get it right. So to kind of to be a part of that and see those veterans finally win, and it was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
How was the relationship with Mike? I mean, Mike, to me, as I view him even now, one day again, I'd probably love to have him on the show too. Is that he was seemed like an A1 guy off the field and on the field, like a generous guy, a nice guy. I mean, you don't have to divulge anything if there was anything behind the scene, but to me, he looked like he came to the stadium, played his ball, and went home and minded his own business.
Mike is very much one of those lunch pail type guys. You think of the American Midwest. That was Mike. So and he kind of brought that attitude that we're just going to work and get it done every day. And he was as a fullback he was very inspiring to be behind and be able to play for and be able to block for.
What was the combined weight of the two of you guys when you were on the field together on a snap?
See, I was 255, 260. It had to be, probably 450, 500. I mean, Mike was probably 240, 250 himself. So somewhere around there.
Where did the pound the rock come from?
That's something, it's a old football moniker, but that was something John, emphasized. That the pound the rock and just that, and taking them to the woodshed, just going out there and kicking their ass constantly, nonstop, from the time the whistle blows until the first last whistle blows. So that was kind of John's mindset. And when you bring that, I guess offensively, the defense already had that. They were kind of already tenacious like that. When you bring that mindset to an offense, to a West Coast offense where it's methodical, it's it's dinking and dunking. It's not, you don't think of it as a rough and tumble in your face offense. But we kind of brought that attitude to that offense, and it made it special.
So you talked about Chucky Gruden there and his I guess fierce competitor or emotional. The game of hockey the last year or two. I don't want to throw the younger generation, but players that are millennial age group players coming into the game of hockey. There's been a lot of heat with coaches that were actually fired and let go because of their personality, their way that they handled the younger players and spoke to them, meaning they almost were like John, right? Like they were aggressive. They were, do you see that changing across the game, whether it's in college or pro? The way that players are handled or spoken to, has the game changed from when you laced them up in a Super Bowl rookie season to now with your experience of some coaching and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the culture has changed. And if you want to look to coaches like Pete Carroll that kind of that emphasize the more a more humanistic approach to coaching, and a more, understanding that it's, you have to work in spite of the stress and the rigors of it, and not pouncing on a guy while he's trying to play. And I think it's a huge change. It's I think you still have it in some of the college ranks, but I think even there it's starting to kind of, from a college football aspect, I think it's starting to change, and it's a change for, it really is.
Well, it's funny, like you said about Pete Carroll, and Pete in the beginning, I mean, he's a great coach. In the beginning, got on my nerves because you can tell that he was good the way that he talked to players. He could pull them to their face, almost like a Gruden. Difference was Gruden was cha-cha-cha, bark like a pit bull. Carroll was more like, He reminded me of the guy off the Water Boy, or like Fonzie, right. So that's Pete Carroll. But it was like when they got a touchdown, it was like he'd have wings, his arms out on the field, running around him. But Pete, get off the field and just stand there, right? But I guess that's just the passion that he has, and he just shows it differently than guys like like a like a Gruden, for example, right? You had your other guys like Mike Dick, those type. They were, again, all the Gruden type S players or coaches that's starting to slip or erode away from the game. Which, like you said, it's needed because the way that we speak to each other also changes, right?
And I think, like it, I don't want to be a football dinosaur because football, even when I played, has dramatically changed just the way it operates. But from a culture standpoint, it does seem like at the professional level that it takes this more kind of holistic approach to like the whole body, the whole body athlete. And where I think kind of, a decade ago, that was just lip service. You talked about being a whole body athlete, but it never, it was never really implemented in coaching, where now it's more, it's kind of a more Zen. I don't know if Zen in football, if you can use it in the same, way like that, but I do see like these coaches and players, their relationship seems more just symbiotic and not so much talking down on somebody or trying to motivate through aggression and criticism. So I think it's a good thing.
All right, so we'll move on from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Buccaneers era there. As you can see, probably way up there in the little.
I checked it out.
See? Yeah, see? So yeah, flash that ring one more time. I want to see how big that one. I know they get huge. They're huge now. How big's that on your fingers? You probably got big hands too.
I've broken all of my fingers, so hold on. It's hard to get it on. But
there you go. There you go. I mean, I know they're getting huge now, but that ring is still nice, and it still means a lot, man. I can't say enough. I mean, I would hope that even your daughters, at the age they are, I don't know how much they know about football, but they realize how special that was.
My daughters know enough not to care. They like the ring, but it's definitely the meaning behind it is they don't care.
Well, since you don't have a son, or you have 4 girls, and if you need a son to leave it to, my little guy would love to have it. If you want to drop that Super Bowl ring in the will, so anyways, I'm gonna move on to Miami. How was Miami, man? Was Miami a change in pace from Tampa Bay?
Yes, and Miami was loved Miami. It's a great atmosphere. And it was another team of just, and people forget though that 05 and 06 year, we had a veteran defense that were good. We had a stout defense, played tough. Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas, Keith Taylor, Vonnie Holiday. We were good.
Was that Nick Saban era? I can't remember.
Oh, the Nick Saban era. Yes.
So that was Nick Saban. Okay.
Yes. Definitely different coaching ideology than that we were speaking about before. But it was, I think the first year we went 9-7, and the second year we went 7-9. But, it was a great team to be a part of. I mean, the guys that really cared about each other.
Okay, so you remember the record for the years. What were the records again?
I think first year I was there 9-7, and the second year we were 7-9. I think.
Are you glad you weren't there the following year?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that seemed like a dumpster fire.
I think it was 1-15 the year that you were gone. Like the next year was 1-15. I mean, didn't the Dolphins have a perfect season with Don Shula?
Yeah.
So why for the record books could you not go perfect both ways and go 0-16 and go perfect the other way? Like why? What a disappointment. The fans. Do you not agree?
I think as an NFL team, as a professional football team, Detroit wound up doing it, but I think that record would be symbolic of everything wrong with not just the team, but maybe like the city, like the state. Like it's just no, like that's like
when you have a record like that, do you want to go to the game on Sunday as a player and just say, you know what, let's just play flag football the rest of the way or two-hand touch?
It's you do your job. When you have a record like that, I think
Well, it's still numbers, right? Like I mean, because you're playing for contract extensions or free agency, so your yardage, your touchdowns, your tackles, your interceptions, all that is still means something to players, even if they're 0-16, they're going to be a free agent, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, because you're always being filmed, and that's basically your resume. So you just again you go to work and you try to stay positive.
So you jumped into, I guess, what, Dallas Cowboys as well? There was a couple pictures I seen. Man, you look like you were jacked, amped, and excited to be like playing in Dallas. There was a few where you were like rowing the boat. You were just pumping out in the flames. You look happy there.
I was that was my third year in the league. I got traded to Dallas from Tampa, and wound up starting that year. And it was a great experience. Playing. There's nothing like being a Dallas. It's just it's Dallas. It's the Cowboys. Like either you love them or you hate them. But it's kind of was great to play.
Let's go back to the beginning of our conversation. You're in Dallas, which is kind of like Alberta in Canada. It's known for steaks and big steaks. And I remember you saying you were like a steak. So correct? It was.
There was a restaurant. I don't know if it's still there, but it's called Del Frisco's. It's one of the restaurants I would, visit there at least once a week. Definitely a place for everything. Everything is big in Texas.
Awesome. So, again, like I said, I've taken a few conkies, some concussions, but we're talking Jerry Jones, and so who's coaching there again at that time?
Bill Parcells was coaching there at the time.
Who was?
So, Bill Parcells.
Oh yes, Parcells. How could I forget? I forget Bill Parcells? How was that? How is that from Chucky Parcells going from Chucky to Parcells? I mean, there's different era, different style.
They're different styles, but I think they're the same people in spirit. Bill's very much, Bill wasn't kind of in your face as maybe as John was, but they both had that kind of no nonsense, like high intensity type of mannerisms. And Bill's a Jersey guy, and I'm a Jersey guy, so I kind of get his personality, like how he wanted to get things done.
Yeah, so it was probably definitely a change for you. Like I said, you go to Tampa, it's a beautiful place. I mean, the stadium, Raymond James Stadium's a nice stadium. Even Dallas. Now Dallas would have built their new stadium after you were there, right?
Yes.
So you didn't get to see that monstrosity.
Yeah.
But you went to Ralph Wilson Stadium, which is known as just like this. I mean, I live an hour from Buffalo, so it's like a concrete bowl, pretty plain Jane. Buffalo is a plain Jane city, a nice city. It's home of the Goo Goo Dolls. There's a nice place down from downtown where the Sabres play called the Perry Street Brewery, which is a nice little gig there. It's on the lake, so you've got Lake Erie, and on the other side you have Lake Ontario, so it's kind of nestled in there. How was Buffalo, New York for you?
I liked Buffalo. It was insanely cold. I didn't like that because I was coming from Miami, so that wasn't cool. But I liked Toronto. I think more like I liked going into Toronto and hanging out because it reminded me of New York in a lot of ways, but it was like cleaner and nicer. And so,
yeah, but if you go into Toronto, it's Why wouldn't you? Because like one American dollar bill is worth like $5 Canadian. Like, I mean, you go in there, you could buy 5 houses, 2 Lamborghinis, and 100 pairs of jeans, and it only costs you $50 in the exchange rate.
No, I thought really moving there, as it was so awesome. It was like I enjoyed going up there and hanging out. Everybody was nice. It was just, I mean, not to take away from Buffalo. Buffalo was cool. But Buffalo is Buffalo.
Buffalo has an amazing song with "Let's Go Buffalo." Like the fans just get nuts with that. And then I Ponchillo Bill, I think was his name. The super fan.
I don't know. I don't know what his name was.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, the mascot.
Yeah, he passed away of cancer last year, I believe, finally. But the guy was, I mean, they brought him up on stage at the draft. And man, like I said, those small market teams, right? Those fans, oh, amazing, right?
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. So did you dig into again, Food Network, cooking? Did you dig into wings? Any wings?
I can't say. I can't say what I dug into, but I definitely learned how to cook a lot of things, and really was kind of the greatest thing I think about it was I learned how to do something in a different way. I learned something new in a different way that I'm not used to learning. So it was kind of like it was exciting to learn, like to just the nuances of it and the science behind it. Of cooking is really cool, and I definitely want to get into some of the things that I cooked, because I was like, I can't believe I put this together. I can't believe I made this, but I know I'm not allowed to. So,
well, it's funny because given where you lived, all those type of areas in the United States always have something special about them, right? Like I mean, Philadelphia Eagles. You were there as well, right? Or
no, I wasn't there. Being I'm familiar. I live an hour from Philly.
Okay, so I mean, your Philly cheesesteaks. I want to say, and again, I'm Canadian, but like soft pretzels or the pretzels that they had there.
It's Pat and Gino's Philly cheesesteaks.
There is, yeah, Gino. I went to the NHL draft in 2014. I had 2 clients drafted there, and I was told I had to go there and the Pier 47. There's some restaurant club thing up by the bridge on the river, right? So Gino's I did get to.
Okay, yeah, no, that's what Philly's known for. That's their hallmark.
What about the Southern? What about Louisiana, New Orleans? I mean, we got to have some good food down there, eh?
Yeah, but it was like acid indigestion, like every day. Like it was, but the food was so good. Like I wasn't really a spicy food kind of guy until I got down there and had some, and ate. Like I might have gained like 15 pounds in New Orleans.
Oh yeah,
I think about it.
That type of food is amazing. Like I like the comment whether you have the corn and they throw the potatoes in there, but like again, I'm Canadian, so I don't know the lingo and all the term, but throwing in all the crawdads and all that stuff, and that's my type of food, right? Like you said, weight gain, which I went through a lot of after playing, and I still suffer with some heartburn and indigestion. And a guy like yourself should have been able to get some Pepto-Bismol commercials or Zantac commercials while you're in the NFL, playing there.
I wasn't that famous. I wasn't going down.
So
I was a block.
So after you retired, like I guess through the college days and into the NFL, Darian, is there anything that you would have changed or done differently?
I mean, looking back, like hindsight, like, no. I mean, no, because I think everything that I've done has led me to here, so no. I mean, if we're talking like, if I can look at like alternate timelines and pick the best one, no. I experienced a lot. I can, I went back to school and finished up when I was done playing, and that was an experience. And no, I don't think I wouldn't change anything.
That's pretty humble. That's pretty humble in my opinion. Usually there's always one when I talk to athletes there or even musicians, they always seem to have one thing. And to me that speaks volumes of your character and how humble you are. And thankful for, what the game has given you. Like it's shocking to hear the things that people would change and to hear that is kind of a breath of fresh air that you're happy with what you've done and accomplished. Now, this might be a silly question and I might already know the answer. Is there one memory through your whole playing career that sticks with you the most?
Like on the field memory, or just like you're just like in general?
I would say in general along the way, and I mean, yeah, your Super Bowl is one thing, but I guess what I mean to say is
My only touchdown.
Your
My
only
only
touchdown. And who?
That's
And what? Do you remember the date? Obviously, it was a Sunday? Wasn't it? Was it a Monday nighter? Did you get prime
It
time?
was Thanksgiving game against
There you
Chicago,
go. There you go.
2004. It was like on the 7-yard line. It was our version of Spider 2 Y Banana, which is just a play action pass. I forget what Dallas called it, but Spider 2 is a West Coast term. I forget what Sean called it, but it was it was our version of that play, and yeah, mine was my only touchdown.
So I wouldn't have known that if you told me that. So you've got your only NFL career touchdown on a Thanksgiving game. So is it Dallas and Detroit or Dallas and?
It was Dallas and Chicago.
Okay, Dallas and Chicago. So that would be those special games. Again, being a Canadian, I still watch them. So they have the turkey feast and all that stuff. Like, did you get a nice dinner after?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from what I remember, yeah, it was like celebrated, and hung out and partied.
Yeah, I mean that. You know what? Like now that you're saying that, a primetime game on Thanksgiving and punching in a touchdown. It's obviously not a Super Bowl, but that, yeah, it would have to be right up there on your career as far as amazing things, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
So who are some of the maybe two or three of the best players you've ever seen on the field?
Best player I've ever seen on the field is Jason Taylor.
Jason
But
Taylor.
not even the 2 years I played with him. He basically took one side of the ball away. And he did like he's one of I don't think that's I think just overall just past forgetting like positions and responsibilities, just dominating, like to be in the position that he was in and dominate the game the way he did, I think was special.
So he was basically 24/7 beast mode on defense is what you're saying, an animal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So defensively, Jason Taylor from Miami. So who is, I mean, a guy that you've seen constantly on the field that was an animal on offense that every time you watch him it's like, God, what can't this guy do?
Larry Allen, probably with Dallas,
Larry Allen.
was like
Okay.
just I used to watch people like 300-pound people like get out of his way, like literally get up and get out of his way because he was so dominant at that position. Like it was silly, and he was all like. And when I watched him, he was in the twilight of his career, and he was still doing that. So if you just can only imagine what he was doing when he was younger, it was insane.
That's crazy. Crazy to hear when you say that people would just get out of his way. It's almost going back to Buccaneers, like when I'd watch you guys trying to pound the rock in on goal line.
Yeah.
I laugh because it was just like when you watched it on TV was like everybody was so freaking huge, like leaning over that you're almost like, oh, these guys they're just gonna get pushed straight back into the end zone, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was, just the goal line was like that was my time to like just let loose and go try to hit somebody. It's not really. I mean, there's responsibility, but most of the time it's just go pull the guy up. Make room for Mike.
So we talked about the Super Bowl and the Thanksgiving game, and you showed me the ring. but holding that Vince Lombardi trophy, like, what is that like for an experience?
You know, it to win the Super Bowl, it's like to hold it, and really just say that you were part. Like I can't. It's like holding a ring. It's like saying like being one of the very few people, on the planet that's done it. So, it's something I'll never forget. It's a memorable experience. It's I gotta imagine it's like holding a Stanley Cup.
Well, I was just going to say that, because when I asked that question just now, when you watch the video a little later or listen to the audio, you paused, because it's special, right? Like, I mean, you're trying to process in your head years later. You knew the feeling, but it was almost like even getting the Lombardi trophy handed to you, you're waiting and waiting and waiting after you've won, and you get it in your hands, and you're like those guys with the cup. Some of them are just, they just raise their arms, and that whole moment, you don't, everything's just a blur. But then when you think back and listen to it, you're pausing, because it was so special, but everything just happened so quick that it's breathtaking.
Yeah. Yes, it's like holding it sums up like everything you went through individually and collectively as a team. Like all the struggles that you might have went through that year individually, all the struggles that you might have went through as a team. That's not even talking about the stuff that happened off the field that people might have dealt with or been going through. Like to hold the trophy, what it basically means is like it all meant something. It was all worth something, and not just to you, but to the millions of millions of Bucs fans that are out there, and the millions of people who were waiting for that moment, who have been loyal Tampa Bay fans, like waiting. So it's a lot. You're not just carrying your hopes and dreams. You're carrying the hopes and dreams of people, that are watching you. You're of the organization that's with you. So it's a lot.
So I want to talk about one last thing before I let you go.
Okay.
One chapter in your life, and you just talked about the holding that Vince Lombardi, the Super Bowl trophy, in your hand, and it's precious, and the hard work, and it means a lot. But since you and I have connected, and I've gotten to see a little bit of your personal life through social media, family. Dude, I mean, you're a dad to 4 girls, so obviously this Vince Lombardi trophy never equates to holding 4 of your girls in your hands when they're born. Through your whole football playing career, how special was your family? How special was your wife to you? And even now, moving on post football, how important is your legacy and your family and your daughters to you?
So basically, I think the thing that drives me, like when I'm old and I'm like, what do I want my daughters to say about me? And not even like my legacy. I'm going to live and die, and years from now, no one will know I ever existed. And that's just the way, it's the nature of the universe. And information comes in, information goes out, the universe moves on, right? So I don't think in like grand scales of like what will be my legacy. If I'm a speck of stardust looking down on this little rock, what has my legacy been? What impact has it been on the whole, ecosystem of humanity? I don't look at it like that. I kind of look at it like, what if my daughters decide to have children? What will they tell their children about me? What will I be able to tell their children about me? And not so. In that respect, I try to just, we're not perfect. days we could be better husbands, better fathers, better people. But at the end of the day, like when you leave this world, what do the people you leave behind, like what impact have you had on their lives, and what memories will they be able from you to instill into their children? And I think that's the only thing you can kind of control. And even I know even in some respects you can't, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can. And I think if whenever I pass, whenever it's time to go, if the impact I've had on my children and the people who trust me and care about me has been positive, that's the best I can ask for.
Well, Darian, I appreciate you jumping on In the Game, my man. You are a outstanding guy. You are a Super Bowl champ. And like I said, I'm going to spread the word up here because we do get the Food Network up here. Sometimes you can get the American package that will have the show. So we're gonna push that up here to have the folks watch you. I want to wish you well. I want to stay in touch with you as like I said, I'll my neighbor there, Frenchie, across the road that moved about a year ago was a huge Bills fan. So as soon as I saw him post that, or when I posted that on Facebook, you were coming on, he kind of was like, oh man. And it was amazing that you reached out, and we'll make that happen for him. The other guy that lives across the road from me now, he's a Miami Dolphins fan. Not the greatest guy. He's a little mean to kids on the block. So I'm not going to reach out and offer him a signed Miami Dolphins photo of you. But if anybody's willing to spread joy, I'm willing to help facilitate that, my man. So, Darian, best of luck to you in the future, brother. Let's stay in touch, and I want to thank you again for coming on the game. Okay, my man. If you have anything in the future that you're working on, or anything with kids, like meaning football programs or just mentorship or anything like that, and you want to touch base, let's connect and we can talk about that. But again, thank you for jumping on In the Game, bro.
Thank you for having me, and everybody stay positive, stay safe, and we'll get through this whole thing together.
Stay safe, Darian. Stay healthy. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, man.
Thanks.